Welcome to a special episode of Serving Pancakes with League One Volleyball. I'm your host, Tiffany Oshinsky. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I'm excited to have Victoria Garrick Browne as my guest today to talk about the importance of mental health. Victoria is a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, TEDxTalk speaker, mental health advocate, podcast host, and a former Division I volleyball player who has amassed over 2 million followers across social media, where she's known for her unfiltered campaign, #RealPost. Victoria was a 4-year starter and Pac-12 champion for the University of Southern California, where she finished her career with the top 5 most digs in program history. When she was a sophomore at USC, she shared her story of battling and overcoming depression and anxiety in a 2017 TEDx talk, which has led her on this journey, destigmatizing the conversation around mental health and encouraging people to be their unfiltered selves through her nonprofit, The Hidden Opponent. Victoria, thank you so much for joining me on Serving Pancakes.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just excited to chat with you.
Very excited to chat with you because this is such an important topic. Mental health is an important topic that, as you have learned and you have talked about, is sometimes, stigmatized as something that we can't talk about, that people are afraid to talk about. Mm-hmm. So I actually want to start this conversation at your 2017 TEDx talk, because I feel like that is kind of where this journey that you're now on kind of began. It's where I feel like you're willing to all of a sudden open yourself up and share your thoughts and everything that's going on with your own personal mental health struggles. So talk to me about the lead up to this TED Talk. What made you decide to do this?
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. That was the domino that changed the trajectory of my life. It's crazy that you just never know, how something is going to affect your future. And I never sought out to be a mental health advocate. I never thought I would found a charity. These were not things that when I went into college, I was like, that's what I'm going to be doing. I kind of thought I would be a sports broadcaster because I liked media and I liked being in front of the camera and I loved sports, but I didn't really know. And so as far as how did I end up there if that wasn't the plan? And I'm very type A. I always have a plan. And I think a lot of elite athletes and volleyball players, people who might listen to this podcast, are similar. You want to make the ones team next year. Then you want to get recruited to this team. Then you want to be this position. And then this girl's going to graduate so you can step into the starting spot. We always have a plan, right? So I think I just felt like when I got to playing Division I volleyball at USC, while it was a dream come true and I would do it 10 out of 10 times again, I'm so grateful for my experience. It was a lot more challenging than I could have ever imagined, nor was I prepared to face. So I just started to really struggle with performance anxiety and, when I wasn't able to figure out how to cope with that, getting really nervous before games and just feeling like I was losing control of my mind and my confidence. I didn't have the words for it because I didn't think, I could have been struggling with a mental health issue. And then I also thought that it was so stigmatized that I didn't want anyone to know because I wanted my teammates to trust me on the court. I wanted my coach to keep playing me in the games. So, I kept that to myself. And then because I was suppressing my anxiety and not dealing with those emotions, that expedited my fall into a depressive episode my sophomore year. And I just ended up getting to a place where I was so low that I couldn't ignore the struggle that I was in. And then once I sought the help and I was going to a therapist and I was learning more about the fact that, hey, I'm in a really high pressure environment. You're probably going to crack at some point or break under the pressure, and that's okay. A lot of people do, but here's how we recover, right? I started to put those pieces together and feel less ashamed of what I was going through. And so once I got to that point, that coupled with my traditionally outgoing personality and, like I said, desire to be in media and write, and I was studying journalism, I was like, we need to talk about this story. So that was something in the back of my mind, as I would go to Annenberg and I would report on, our little news segment about what was happening with the USC sports teams. But then I would think, this feels like it doesn't matter. We need to go to an athlete, grab their shoulders and say, are you okay? How are you feeling? Forget about the game. Forget about the points. How are you as a human being? That's what I was caring the most about. And so as far as the TEDx talk, I was sitting in a class on a Wednesday night and I saw an email come through with the subject line. I say this all the time. I don't know if I've made it up over the years or it's just, I don't know if I've made it up over the years because it's what it felt like to me or if it's what it really said. I think it's what it really said, but I swear it said like once in a lifetime opportunity, like TEDxTalk at USC. So immediately I was like, I'm zoning out of this lecture. I'm copy and pasting the diary notes I've been writing in my phone about these crazy days and all of my emotions and my feels, and I'm applying. And I got called back and I went through the process, and I actually got cut at one point. They were like, there's too many TEDx talks on mental health already. And this was 2017. There were probably 3. I mean, that's don't fact check me on that because I'm sure there were more. And there were many amazing people who were like, you know, paving the way for these conversations. But I was like, come on now. Like, I've literally Googled athlete mental health and really felt like I found nothing on the internet. Imagine that. Like, so much has changed. So then when I did get like called back at the last minute, actually, we do want to see you one more time. I remember going in and being like, looking all of them dead in the eye and saying, I don't know who you're interviewing and auditioning. I don't know what their story is. I'm sure it's lovely. I promise you that we need to talk about this. There's a massive epidemic of an athlete mental health crisis, and no one's talking about it. And whether I scared them into it or they bought my elevator pitch, they chose me as one of the speakers. So I got to work on, deliver that TEDx talk, and had no foresight that I would ever speak again publicly or that I would lead me to become this content creator and that now I would have this podcast and this life. I never thought that. I just got on that stage and was like, I hope this helps someone. And I think the moral of the story there is like, if you get to a place in your life where you're so passionate about something and something means so much to you and every part of your body is like, this is what is important to me, listen to your intuition because you just never know where it will lead you. And the last thing I'll say, Tiffany, I'm literally been speaking for so long.
No, keep going. You're doing great. I love this.
Because this is the League One Volleyball podcast, I need to say this. You know, I was really genuinely like, I just hope this helps an athlete out there who's also crying at night, depressed, and looking up athlete mental health on YouTube. Like, I hope they find this and they feel seen. And literally, I don't know. So this TEDx talk, I believe, came out in like the spring. So it was the next fall. We were playing Kentucky in the preseason and we finished the game and we were like, good game, good game, good game. And this one girl was like, good game, good game. I loved her TED talk. Good game, good game, good game. And I was like, and that was like one of those moments where I thought, wow, you know, it's gotten to this person I scouted and I'm playing against and we feel so different, but we're the same. So I'll stop there and let you do your job.
No, but this is why you're on, is to talk about this and for us to learn, because I feel like there's so much that went into not just the preparation to do it, but I mean, everything that you went through, right? To eventually get to having to do this TED Talk and understanding that this was something that was needed. And, you know, in your talk, speaking of things that were needed, I feel like, you know, there's that question where people are just like, why don't you quit? Like, if this is really that big of an issue for you, why don't you quit? That's just a question that I feel like is the next follow-up after you're talking about all of these hardships that you're going through. And it's like, I mean, I listened to your answer, but, you know, I didn't end up playing in college. I ended up going to film school, but I can see, you know, at some point being like, but this is who I am, right? So can you just, for the listeners of this podcast who haven't heard your TED Talk, explain why you didn't quit and why you kept pursuing?
I have not thought about this in probably years. So I love that you asked this because it's like bringing me back and it's making me chuckle a little bit because I will find myself looking at someone else's circumstance or situation and thinking, just break up with them, just transfer. Just quit your job. Just apply to the new, it's so easy to look at someone's situation and think it would be, the solution is to, you know, do something so drastic. But as we all know, and we've all been in these places, when something has been a part of your life for so long, you love it so much, you focus on, like I said at the top of the show, I would do it 10 out of 10 times. And without a doubt, it was the most, it's mental health month, so let's be real. I got to a place where I was questioning like if I wanted to live my life. I've had struggles since, and I feel like I've been through some things that have been really hard post school, but I've never gotten to a place with my thoughts where I've questioned, do I want to be here? And so it's like, but then I'm saying I would go back and do it 10 out of 10 times because it brought me here, So it's like, why didn't I quit? I mean, because I honestly didn't even know if I would be happier without it. Like, I wanted to figure out how to make this thing work. Of course, there were times my mom came to an away game and she saw me white as a ghost, I had all these stress pimples on my face. All I did was sleep. All I did was cry. And she was like, that's it. I'm knocking on the coach's door. I'm taking you off the team. And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, we have a game tomorrow. Or like, I don't want to, like, you know what I mean? So it was just, that just also didn't feel right. I guess I felt stuck, and I loved volleyball so much that I wanted to figure out how to make it work. And I was able to do that by going to therapy once a week, getting on antidepressants, opening up about my struggles so that I didn't feel so much shame and I didn't feel so alone. And I even took a brief mental health leave after my junior season for a couple months and then returned to play my senior season. And then my senior season, I did feel like I had the tools. I still struggled and I had anxiety at points and whatnot, but I was happier because I had a toolbox,
Going back to volleyball kind of being your identity, I want to go like way back because, it took a lot of hours and a lot of time to get to play in college, especially USC, which is one of the best teams in the country. So I want to go back to young Victoria and tell me how you first fell in love with the sport and when it was fun, when there was no anxiety or depression. Tell me how you fell in love with the sport and what made you realize that this was going to be part of your identity.
I just get this visual of my middle school gym, and I know like we had a whole border down and we were on the right side of the court and we were playing volleyball, I think at like PE, and I just had a really natural standing topspin, which is so funny for volleyball players. It's like a standing topspin. No one serves that way. It's like the easiest thing. But when you're in 7th grade and you're whipping out a spinner, like you can't pass it. And so I just had a natural take to the game. I loved sports growing up. I played pretty much everything. So when it came to like choosing a sport, and I guess my older brother was a professional golfer and he golfed at UCLA. So I guess I had always looked at him as someone who took sports very seriously and he kept playing. And I always thought like, I'm going to play sports, as long as I can. And so it was a teammate, it was a classmate's mom who went to my mom and said, oh, your daughter's really good. She should join my daughter's club team. And we were like, what's club? And then my mom was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And so like I had said before, I signed up and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the 2s team. I want to make the 1s team. Okay, this is the coach. Like, this is the girl I have to be better than to make the team freshman year. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of got enthralled by the sport. And before I knew it, I was like, I haven't played soccer in 3 years. It was natural. It just was the sport that I guess won my heart in a sense.
Now, did you ever feel a sense of burnout in the lead up to playing in college? Because I told you this before we started recording, but I played, club ball. I was very competitive. My dream was to play at Penn State. I, wasn't recruited for a scholarship, but I did everything possible that I could to go to Penn State. I went to all the summer camps. I made a business card when I was 13 and gave it to Coach Russ Rose at like one of those camps. I did everything, but then when I was a junior in high school, kind of similar to your junior year of college, I remember driving to like a practice and I was just miserable on the way down. And when I got to practice, I sat on the sideline and I just cried because I knew that I loved the sport, but I had kind of lost the love for it in a way. And there was this, sense of burnout. So did you ever feel that when you were playing and growing up? Was there any sort of premonition that maybe came to your mind that like that is a mental health issue? Because when I was 16 and this happened, I had no idea that this was a mental health thing. To me, it was just like, oh, I've got to suck it up, but I'm going to sit it out this practice and I'll decide what I'm going to do eventually. But, have you ever felt anything like that?
I didn't before college. What you described sounds similar to like what I went through my freshman year of college, but prior to that, I mean, practice days were my favorite. I was always the one that was like in early, out late, wanting to play more. I loved the tournaments, but granted, I had a lot of confidence. I was one of the best players on the ones team at the time. We were going to JOs. Like, I loved our rhythm. One of my best friends was on the team. Like, it just was so great. And I didn't have a thought of like, sometimes I guess maybe if like, we were at high school and your crush came to watch you play, I'd be like, why am I thinking so much about this? Or like, why am I how did my spike or whatever it was? So I definitely had, now that I look back, I can recognize moments of like where I was probably starting to see I had the potential to like really overthink or have anxiety while I was playing, but never enough that it ever spooked me. And actually my first season at USC, I brought that energy in. Like, I was so excited for double days. I mean, the seniors, that was like the joke, that like I just wanted to play and we had 2 practices a day. It was like my dream come true, So then it was like the stark contrast of that to then a few months later feeling like I'm about to cry before we go out to the court because I'm so scared that I'm going to get served and I'm going to get aced. Like, so that was why it was, I think, so jarring for me, is because I started to then be like, I don't even, like, who am I? Like, this is so not me. And then you start to get upset with yourself and you're like, come on, like, and then you just continue to spiral.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, you said that when you got to USC, you were super excited, super happy. You were one of the girls that came out there and gave your, A game every single time. But what was the moment? Do you remember the moment where you realized that something wasn't right?
When I think about this time in my life, there's like moments that I remember vividly. There's things I don't remember. Like, I also just like don't have a great memory. My friends and I always joke. My best friend Aubrey will be like, remember when you said this thing and wore this thing and we were in 3rd grade? And I'm like, no. I'm like, what did we even do this past weekend? Like, that's where my brain is. But something that pops into my head is like a practice we had where we were scrimmaging my freshman year. We were the number 1 team in the country. We were undefeated. I was starting. We had the National Player of the Year. Like, the stakes were high. And it was a scrimmage. And my side won the point. And, like, I thought that was good. But then the whistle blew and, the coach called us together or either came to me. I forget. But, like, I basically got called out for doing the wrong footwork, like on defense. Like, I made the wrong read. And I think for me in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, we won the point. I didn't even touch the ball and I made a mistake. And like, because I'm so type A perfectionist, like care so much, I think I then started thinking, oh my God, like even if I don't touch even if we win the point and we win the game, I still could be like making mistakes. So I think that was a moment for me where I really felt like everything I do has to be flawless. And this is a whole different ball game than club. And I will say, like, I think that I was mentally susceptible to have this reaction to pressure. I don't look back and think someone caused this for me. It would be really cool if I could have play a month of my freshman year knowing what I know now and try to use my coping mechanisms and breath work and journaling and confidence stuff. Like, I would love to try it. I was just 18. I was young. I had never worked on anything on the mental mindset side of the game, and it was a very high pressure environment, and something with my personality and that chemistry mix, this was the reaction. So I just like to say that because I don't look back like thinking, I bet it could have played out this way at another school,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of athletes, especially you see now, a lot of athletes are starting to come forward and talk about their own mental health struggles, and it has nothing to do with, I mean, it's kind of one of those just situations where maybe you thought that this was the right place, but there's just external factors that made it not feel right, or just, you thought you meshed with the coach or the players, but it's not actually right. And you need to find how your brain works, right? And how you know how to handle yourself and cope with what needs to be, cope with how you can handle the situation better, right? I feel like a lot of players, that's why the transfer portal is a thing, right? And players can transfer to teams that they think that they can actually mentally help themselves a little bit better. But I mean, speaking of just players in general, did you ever talk to your teammates about this? Like when you got there, was this something that your teammates also dealt with and talked about, or was it something you kept private and then went to a therapist on your own, or did the team help you?
I definitely had a teammate connect me initially with a therapist at the health center, which was super helpful for me because it gave me that confidence of, oh, if she's going, that means I can go. And she was older than me and we were in the same position, and I just felt like seen, that she related to the stress and was like, and I also do something to help me with it. So that was like my first kind of crack in a good way, where I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not the only one. And then it's funny because as I think about my upperclassmen years, the conversation on mental health was so present, and I think so much changed from 2015 to 2019 when it comes to the mental health conversation, and then we ran into 2020. I noticed it in just my time there, where almost to a fault we were joking about being depressed and being down bad and sad, so I think I saw it go both ways.
Well, I feel like another thing that, I'm older than you, so my generation didn't grow up with social media. I didn't have to worry about scrolling through people and seeing, what they're doing on spring break or what their bodies look like, or if my post didn't get 100 likes compared to somebody else's. Like, I didn't have to deal with that. But you've talked about social media and how that can really hinder and hurt your mental health. So can you just talk about that, your perspective on social media and what it can do to people, especially student athletes?
Definitely. There's so much comparison on the internet. It's so hard not to. I'm guilty of it still now. We're humans. We're constantly scanning our environment for threats to make sure that we're going to be okay, we're going to be liked and accepted. It literally goes back to our ancestors who would wake up and think, I hope the tribe didn't leave without me. Like, I hope I'm hunting enough and I'm gathering enough and you know what I mean? It's like in our blood to scan and make sure we're safe in a million ways. And it can come up in the most surface level way of like, am I as popular? Am I as pretty? Am I, all these things. So when I was going through, I guess, this huge dip in my life, it felt like, with my mental health, I started to just kind of question and think about everything. And I realized that social media was contributing to this narrative I had, that everything had to be okay all the time. And it was really just starting to not edit my photos and not care so much about getting the photo and being more real about what I was doing, how I was feeling, my thoughts. That started another small little trickle effect with, I guess, how my Instagram has grown over the years, because it definitely went from what I thought was me, presenting picture perfect, to then getting not really making sense and being a little more, I don't want to say weird, but to what was people posted, a little weird. And then started to feel empowered once the TEDxTalk was, I was getting messages and emails and feeling really comforted, that I realized there was more to share. So then I continued to do that on the internet, and I still do that to this day. I really try, if I'm not having a good day, I don't maybe always have to say, hey guys, this is exactly what happened, but I'll say not having the best day, because I just want people on social media to know everyone's not always happy, everyone's going through things, and I like to, have a trust with anyone who follows me in the community that you're never going to see anything filtered. I don't even swipe right to Paris on my story, which that's hard. It's hard some days, but I never do it. I'm just I would like you to know, this corner of the internet, you're going to see real content and real emotions.
That's where the hashtag real post came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I feel like there's this veil of fakeness that a lot of people put on themselves when it comes to social media, that they want to make sure that they look the best and all that. I mean, and like you said, everyone is susceptible to that. Everyone goes through that. It's kind of like, how can you get past that and allow yourself to be your true self on social media and show who you really are, ups and downs. But obviously everyone wants to see the ups.
I know. And it's like, I want everyone to know there will be people who will like you, love you, accept you for you just being you. And I think the biggest thing that we all crave is connection. We want to connect with other human beings and feel seen. And the only way that we actually, if that's what we want, how do we get there? You don't get there by saying, oh, I was the valedictorian and my kids are perfect and my life is perfect. You don't relate to anyone. You get there by saying, oh my God, today really sucked. I've just felt so stressed and like, none of my friends are showing up for me. And then someone might say, wait, I feel the same way. Or I'm so glad you told me. The only way we grow deeper in connection is through vulnerability. So I, think it's important to remember that as we think about how we show up in the world and online.
So after your TEDx talk, what happened? I mean, talk to me about the response that you got from people who watched it, from your teammates, from your family, friends. What was that response like?
I definitely felt so much support. My parents were there when I gave it. So was my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and 2 of my teammates came, and my best friend was there, and I felt really supported. I think I was just also sort of blown away by how many people related to it. I knew that the message served a purpose. I think I didn't process like how big it could actually grow. And I think the Hidden Opponent nonprofit is a huge testament to that. It's titled after the TEDx talk. And now we have a community where, there's a campus captain, so a student athlete ambassador in all 50 states. And I mean, that's just incredible that now we have this like national presence of this next generation of advocates and student athletes who are out there right now. They're playing right now. They're graduating right now. They're being recruited right now. And we can hear about, their unique struggles, tools, how they're overcoming their mental health issues, and also arming them with like accessible resources and education. So I was blown away by the initial response, and I'm still like pinching myself today as the Hidden Opponent nonprofit continues to live on and grow this amazing community. And for Mental Health Awareness Month, obviously this month, we collaborated with Adidas on an Ultra Boost sneaker and some t-shirts and some shoes. And so it's insane. It's so cool. And it wouldn't be possible if it weren't for all of the other people who were like, me too, been there. I want to help. I want to be a voice. So I'm still in disbelief, Tiffany.
It's amazing what you've built. And like we said, it started from this TEDx talk where you were vulnerable and willing to show what was happening inside you. So we mentioned this briefly, but, we talked about how mental health and athletes are starting to be more vulnerable with their mental health. I've been, reading tons of stories about athletes at all levels, high school, college, pro, who have come forward with their own struggles and their own anxieties and depression and how they've overcome it. But I'm curious because in your talk, you mentioned how you were hoping that, that the conversation would grow. So do you think that it's grown enough, or do you think that there's still more work to do?
I think it's grown astronomically. It's been so awesome to see. Even though I'm not actively playing sports anymore, to see like Simone Biles' transparency at the past Olympic Games and to see so many athletes talking about this, I feel like the mental health conversation has definitely become more of a common currency, and I think topic just in all gyms and on all teams. Have we followed that up with adequate resources and accessibility to those resources? No, it varies at the levels. If you go to a Division I campus like me, they could send an email and get seen that week. And then some of the Division II, Division III schools that I visited and spoken to, they might need to wait a month or two. And unfortunately, that might just be too long. People want to be seen and they need help now. And I obviously know that that's a greater issue that a lot of people are experiencing, whether you're a student athlete or not. So I think the conversation and the destigmatization of the issue has gotten to a very impressive place. And I think now something, we're focusing on at the Hidden Opponent is how can we bring those accessible resources to the same standard.
Since you've been traveling around the country and all over discussing the Hidden Opponent and helping other student athletes, what have you found is kind of the biggest issue that a lot of them are still facing?
Well, I feel like there's added pressure with this whole NIL situation is very unique, and now a student athlete might have an agent, or they might be trying to build their brand, or they might now be needing to send money back home. I just think there's a bunch of additional and unique pressures that we're still figuring out what the norm's going to be and how things are going to function in this new system. So I feel like, of course, still seeing student athletes who are struggling with the same pressures of just being away from home, managing the really intense demands of the schedule and school and training and lifting and traveling and competing. And now with NIL, I mean, it's a whole other part of the mix. So I would say that's been the unique one that I've seen come up more. And when I was playing and doing YouTube and building my accounts, I mean, I had very strict rules to follow, so I can't even imagine what would have happened in my brain if I thought that, like, if I could have started a business at the same time. I had to wait to do that,
For sure. Do you see with, like, these student athletes coming in and let's actually go back to like high schoolers, and this demanding schedule that they're about to embark on when they do go to college. Do you see a path for them or a way for them to fully understand what they're about to get themselves into when they get to college? Or is it still kind of one of those, it's a live and learn situation?
I think like anything, you won't really know until you get there and you're actually in it and experiencing it. So what I think I would recommend is to ensure that you have the support system around you, like almost like this backup net to catch you if you do feel really overwhelmed, if you do feel really anxious or spread thin or burnt out. So making sure that where you can go to get that help and support, I think would be really great, because then you don't have to figure it all out when you're already feeling like you're in a low situation. So I would just say, being ready and prepared for like all cases, but enjoy high school. You don't need to go make high school 5 times as difficult to make it less difficult when you get to college. Like, enjoy it now, and then trust that future you will figure it out, and allow future you to seek the help if you need it.
And now you also started, along with the Hidden Opponent, you started a podcast, Real Pod. So talk to me about that. Why did you decide to also get into podcasting and, sharing your message that way, as opposed to just kind of doing just the foundation, the nonprofit?
I love having deep chats with people, and how I described the kind of connection before about like getting real and getting vulnerable, and oh my gosh, you felt that way, so did I. And so I thought that the podcast would be a way to basically evolve what #RealPost was. So it literally was like, we're going to go from Real Post to Real Pod. Very simple name.
I like that.
And hopefully I'm going to sit down and interview other people who have something deep that they want to share, that's not so glamorous about their journey. That's not the highlight reel. And so that was really the initial concept of the show. And I feel grateful that it's, I think, been 5 years.
Wow.
And I've had some incredible conversations with people. If anyone listening is not familiar with my podcast, Real Pod, I recommend you start with an episode that came out a few weeks ago called This Will Change Your Life, a powerful conversation on joy with Jeffrey Saad, who's a cancer fighter. It's incredible. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, is it going to be deep and like really sad and scary? No, it's going to make you live your life to the fullest. I want everyone to listen to it. Not for me, for him. I barely talk. You just have to hear Jeffrey Saad's story. But I mean, I feel so grateful that, yeah, we have a place where people feel comfortable to talk about what they're going through, and listeners can know we're all trying to be the best version of ourselves, and it's not always pretty.
I love it. I was looking at your episode list, and there were a few on there that I'm like, oh, I got to listen to that one and that one and that one. So I'm excited to dig into that. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I also, before we wrap up this interview, I have 2 questions left. And the first one is just kind of an open-ended question, which is just from the stuff that we've talked about, is there anything else that you want people to know, especially student athletes in the pro levels, about mental health, that is something important that they should be focused on for themselves, or something that, you know, they can take with them to try to grow and improve themselves?
I mean, I would maybe just add that it's not a weakness to seek help from someone else or to struggle with your mental health. It's actually a strength to have the ability to say the difficult thing, ask the difficult question, admit that you need support navigating something. I think it's far harder and takes more strength to do that than it does to pretend everything's okay. So as an athlete listening to this who always wants to be a high achiever and strong and all the things, I would encourage you to kind of, if you need to, flip that mindset a little bit and recognize that it actually is incredibly brave and takes a lot of strength to prioritize your mental health.
Of that. And the last question I have, what is your relationship with volleyball today, and are you still playing?
If my friends are playing in Santa Monica Beach and hit me up and I can go, I love to go. I tried to gather some old teammates and some local girls who played in the area to start a beach thing, but it's like everyone's so busy, and volleyball is hard because you need at least 4 people on a side, you need a net, you need balls, you need you know what I mean? So it's been difficult, but anytime I get the opportunity to play, I usually take it, but I miss it a lot. I wish there were ways I could play more. If I could go to practice 2 nights a week, I would do it. Someone invite me. I'm like, honestly, I wish there was a local, I looked into this, I wish there was a local, west side of LA team, and they needed me to just play in their practice, because I would be there, but I don't think
Practice
it exists.
squad. That's amazing. I feel like you gotta find, I'm sure there's some sort of league. I mean, I'm on the East Coast in Jersey, so we don't have there with Jersey Shore, but I don't live on the Jersey Shore, so I'm not near any beach courts. Plus, you can only play beach a few months out of the year. But I mean, I'm in an adult league, beer league right now, and it's awesome. And I get to play and still have fun and play with some amazing teammates and people that I've become friends with over the years. And it's I still get my love.
That's amazing. I love that. I was thinking League One should have, you guys, they should do a celebrity game. You know how NBA All-Star, they do NBA players and they bring in random new people. I think that could be fun, because they're not that I'm a celebrity at all, but it's volleyball and you'd need to be able to play well to scrimmage again. So it's could they bring in former known volleyball players from the NCAA who don't play anymore? Could they bring in YouTubers, creators? I don't know. I think that would be such a fun media event, and I would definitely be there. So
I pitched this idea to our CMO. I mentioned, I was maybe next year we should do something like this, a little celebrity.
No, you should do it. It would be so much fun.
I really would love for that to happen. So I'll make sure that we hit you up if that actually happens, if it comes to fruition.
I'm begging to be included.
By the way, speaking of celebrities who play volleyball, supposedly, when I was doing some research, Leonardo DiCaprio does beach volleyball every so often. So maybe you should keep an eye out for that. Really?
Okay, that's good to know.
I
don't think I sound too surprised that Leonardo's hanging around the beach volleyball gals.
Well, supposedly he gets his buddies though. It's not just some people on the beach. It's he gets his other celebrity friends. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, and that this could just be a random blog post that I read.
I'll keep my eyes peeled at the beach, and if he's there, I'll recruit him to the Celebrity League One game.
Yes, done. I love it. Well, Victoria, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much. And I mean, thank you for everything that you've done and your openness and being able to come forward with everything, because you have helped kick the door down for a lot of other people to, be who they are and to share who they are and to get better if they need help. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed your questions, brought back some great memories, and thank you for having me and for your time.
Thanks for watching Serving Pancakes. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. You can also listen to the podcast version on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.